All right. I think we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure we'll have a few more people trickle in here, but we're going to cover some. I mean, we've had a lot of really big moves over the weekend, actually, and getting a bit of a pullback now. I did warn you guys last night before I went to bed, and I just thought that we were at kind of a natural point for people to be taking profits. So actually, I'll pull this over so you guys can see it. For those of you that are watching this is the VIP replay, but I did post in Gen chat, like in the main part of Discord for all of the public to see that we did hit the top of the value area high, basically the top of the range. Volume wise that I was looking for. Kind of hard to zoom in here. But
If you're,
you guys can't see this, but the guys who are watching replay can. I'm just going over what I posted literally what I posted last night in chat. But yeah, it hit the value area high of the range. I would say that monthly is the support that I would want to see held. This is a natural place for some profit taking, especially on this news pump. So it's talking about the China tariffs being reduced to 10%. Alts had a huge week. It's not a bad idea to take some profits and lock in at least some percentage of that. And if there are dips, you can add back. Things look good overall, but there will be pullbacks. Anyway, I go over like all of this in here and give you guys a pretty good heads up about that. And we've had a really nice pullback since then. So it just seemed kind of likely. And again, like for those of you who are watching live, you couldn't see what I was posting, but it was just the warning that I gave, 10 hours ago in Discord. I think we're at like 104,500 or something like that. We were just, basically coming up here to the value area high, and I could see that we were respecting that as resistance, and it just seemed kind of likely. Like again, you've had a move, we had a bit of consolidation underneath the value area low, and then you can see we basically ripped right through this. A little bit of a pit stop here at the point of control, but we went right up to it. And I think here you can see, if you remember this red box of death that I was talking about, it just seemed really likely that we would get a test up to it. And then the first, if you remember from, I think it was literally the last video that I did, and possibly the one before, but I said, hey, like I could definitely see a move up here, but the first test of this, I think, is pretty likely that we're gonna get a rejection, and that's what we're seeing so far. Again, so as far as Bitcoin is concerned, this monthly level here at 102,411, this is kind of the support. Like you can see when we initially broke through it, and then we were holding it really nicely right before we gave our value area high test. This is the support that I basically wanted to see held. And then you had your R1. This is your monthly pivot. You have your R1 pivot that again, like it's basically 102,000 that I said, hey, that's a region that I'd like to see held. We're currently below that, not the end of the world, but again, just like a really nice initial rejection off of the value area high of the range yet again. This to me is a little, again, it's not the end of the world. If you look at stocks are up absolutely huge today. ES is over 3%. NASDAQ is, at one point, I think was over 4%. Like these are absolutely massive moves that I wasn't surprised to see. I was a little surprised we didn't see it like a little quicker once futures opened, to be honest with you, yesterday. But huge move like that. It was a really big announcement. My cause for concern and why I posted that lengthy post in Discord for all of you is because of that. And it's not shocking. Like, crypto had a beautiful move up. Like, look at this, a lot of alts, and we'll go over those as well. A lot of the alts that we looked at, those edge to edge setups that we looked at, like absolutely crazy moves. And I hope you guys did really well with those. But I was worried that, again, that's like outstanding news. Again, it didn't, today's pump in traditional markets didn't surprise me at all. It just was kind of like giving the market what it wanted, right? And on days like that, You know, for crypto that's been pumping really hard, you know, for the last few weeks, really, it's just a natural, like it's a, you know, through experience or whatever, I've just looked at it, said, oh, this is a good place to take profit. And, you know, again, getting the value area high test, you're coming up basically, again, kind of like to this red box of like, we have failed every time to actually get you know, a solid move through this. And, you know, again, it's not like, you know, we front round the box just ever so slightly, but you can look at the value area high here again and know that like this is definitely a region. It's just a normal place where, you know, if you've been long, especially long from a lot lower, you're coming back to like some really serious resistance, and you've made it all the way to the other side of the range, the value area high, and it's a good spot to take some profit. So I'm not shocked. And again, if you remember the last video that I did, see the last one or the one before that, you know, I said like if we get up to these regions, like this is not an area where you want to be longing. Like this is where, you know, it's not the smartest thing I've ever seen anybody do. But it doesn't mean that, you know, a bit of a pullback from here could be, you know, a decent opportunity. And, you know, again, or like seeing this red box, you know, seeing a push up, flip into support type of thing, then like we would see a much bigger move, most likely. So anyway, just wanted to do a quick update on Bitcoin, and kind of we're getting everything that we've wanted to see. At least I've wanted to see. You know, ideally for bulls, you want to see at least some kind of a range start to develop here, start to, you know, put in some kind of low, let your TK lines catch up a bit more. I would say though, as long as you're kind of like under $102,000, especially this monthly, I think this monthly is, you know, again, because it was a nice kind of support test. I think as long as you're below that, you know, I wouldn't be too surprised to see a bit of a test lower, maybe down to like 98,500, 99,000, something like that. Just a bit more of a pullback. Your Tenkin here is at 98,007, it's about 98,800, something like that. I wouldn't be like too surprised to see a bit more, you know, a bit more of a pullback. It's not the end of the world, but if you had taken some profits here, you should be pretty happy about that. And then we kind of just wait and see for the next setup. Like shorting from here was valid, very risky. You know, like, you know, again, it's pretty risky to short a chart that looks like this, but when you're coming into major, like I class this as like pretty significant resistance, which is why I gave that long rant or long warning in Discord. I could see it. And yeah, like it's just a normal spot to kind of get a bit of a pullback. Doesn't mean that the rally's completely over. Oh my God, we're going to zero, but it's just, hey, this is a normal place to see a pullback. And you know, again, like any profits that we're taking, you can always add back in as well, which, you know, like if you're super bullish on this, I would say to the downside. So again, 98.5, 98,500, 99,000, something like that is kind of like the first area of support that I would say is below here. And it's just kind of like, it would be like a retest of this region along with where your daily Tenkin is at the moment. From a volume perspective, considering this value area high was literally perfect resistance, where's your next level? It's the point of control. And it's down here at 96,600. I definitely wouldn't forget about that. And, you know, we spent some time consolidating at or near it before a basically straight up move to your value area high. So I do think that the point of control is extremely relevant still.
And it also lines up well with the current weekly.
Oh, your weekly? Yeah, we can look at that real quick. Oh yeah, it does, huh? Oh, there you go. So like here, so this is good. So that's a good call out. And right now, where are you bouncing from your weekly pivot? So
Exactly.
very good. Yeah, that's a good call out there. Which I would say, so like that's really interesting. That's actually that's a very good call out. And I would say that if you have, so like what I would want to see here, if I'm bullish and I didn't take any profit and I'm praying that this continues, is I would want to see this current low right here or somewhere very close to it hold up as some kind of a range low, right? So like if we're gonna range here for a bit, kind of like we did here, okay? Just like some bit, and that's totally fine, right? You had the same thing here, which I've gone over this a bunch of times now. Impulse, consolidation, impulse, consolidation, impulse. You know, if we like consolidate around here for a little bit, that's fine, right? And then you would think that you would just continue to follow the same thing, right? The trend, you're giving your momentum indicators time to catch up, like your trending indicators time to catch up, right? To like offer more support. Um, you know, it's kind of like the same thing here. You're giving your TK lines time to catch up. So yeah, like I would say the pivot, the weekly pivot, it was just tapped. I would say like again, I would want to see some kind of like a range low develop around here at best, right? Like at least. You start to lose that any weakness below this current low that you've seen, then yes, your S1 pivot lines up beautifully with your the point of control of this entire range that's developing. You're talking back to November. Like this is a lot of price action here. I would say your point of control is very relevant, and your S1's lining up really nicely. To the flip side, you know your R1, your pivot really good to the upside 108, which is basically another test you know, of like our all-time high. We're like pushing all-time highs, right? So if you were to flip, I would say, and this is more I would say for like lower time for if you're scalping this. You know, if we're able to push up and reclaim the value area high of this range, then your first, you know, again, if you're scalping, you know, like 105 to 108, I think that's pretty good opportunity. I just think if you're getting back above your value area high anytime soon, then yeah, like we would look for a test of a new all-time high, something like that. Like I just think this seems likely. I mean we're almost there, right? But yeah, I do like where these weeklies line up a lot. So that was a very good call out. And your monthly,
Yeah,
so like this
actually,
is looking at trading for like the month of May, and you know, so like to the downside, that 96.6, I think that's a really important pivot for this month. If you lose that, you got some support down here. You know, I'm sure your Kijun is going to be playing catch up over the next week or so. You know, week to 2 weeks. Your cloud is bullish on the daily time frame. You're very far away, and again, like another thing that is again, and I would say worrisome, but it's just in the camp of like looking. It just adds to like getting a pullback like we're seeing right now. Is that price is really far away from your TK lines as well, right? So it's like I like for these to be close together. I like for them to be trending closer together. And you have, you know, prices pretty far away from your Kijun is kind of my point. So it's not, you know,
that's
it's
like
not a
around
major.
10%.
What's that?
That's like 10%.
Yeah,
Like
it's far.
my
Yeah, I mean
input.
it's pretty pretty far away from it. Which again, it's not like the end of the world or anything like that. But it's just you know, typically when things are really, you know, when price is really far away from equilibrium, you get moves to the equilibrium, right? Like that's you know, even in like really strong trending moves, you can get pretty nice pullbacks. And so yeah, again, that's kind of why I was sounding the alarm. I think it was at like 104,500 bucks or something like that. I just thought that a pullback from here made a bit of sense. And, you know, again, traditional markets are up huge today, really good. But I feel like you know crypto's been absolutely ripping for the last week or so, which is really good to see. And I know we'll get into some of those charts, you know, some of the other ones that we've been covering. But I just kind of wanted to give that update on Bitcoin. So like for me, this is like a natural place to take some off the table. Like when we were, especially when we were up, when I was calling it out, you know, 104 and a half, like that's a good area to be a little bit cautious. But I do think, you know, it's something that we'll be paying attention to over the next few days is do we get this range that's established here, which would be really good. If you're scalping this, you certainly could treat it that way. Or do we get like a bit of a deeper pullback? And you know, I could imagine something, you know, pulling back even to like 96,000, like to it could run some of these late longs out. You know, I could see that. That would be be a little rough, depending like how it happened. But I think like that's a pretty good level You have some levels below here that I think are interesting, but like from this monthly pivot, for example, I don't really expect this. But like it is down here at 88,000. Like that would be a real significant, you lose 96, then you'd be looking for a pretty deep retracement, in my opinion. Which I don't think that's not what I'd be looking at right now, but I'm just throwing it out there as, something to watch because markets can move quickly. You could look in 2 hours and we could be at 96. Unlikely, but it's possible, right? We've seen crazier stuff happen over the years, so just like the people to be prepared. But
I think Livestream said something about the 88K. I don't know about the week.
I think I like 88K as I think there's pretty good confluence here. Like again, like I'm not looking at this unless we lose the point of control. And like there's still pretty good supports above that. I wouldn't just say we're going straight there, but I would say like for a swing long opportunity, I think 88. I mean, if we were given 88 over the next couple weeks or something, I think that would be a really nice spot. But yeah, I'm not, again, it's kind of not that it's irrelevant, but it's not like we still have some pretty good supports like above 88, right? But I'm just saying, like, if we did see it this month, that's probably a pretty good shot, or like a pretty good area to be looking for longs again. Again, if you had wrote this up, this is why, like, again, taking some profit here, not the worst idea. Another thing too is like I think this illustrates it pretty well. So like if you were taking profits at 104, 105, something like that, like you there's not much left here, right? It's kind of like in this scenario, I like to let the market prove to me that it is as strong as everybody thinks it is. What I mean by that is like if you had a great trade and you got up to your value area high, there's not much left here, right? Like there's not much left at this point. You're basically at your prior all-time high from back here at the beginning of the year. If you see acceptance above that, then you can, it's like you're missing out on, $3,000, $4,000, something. You're missing out on very. To me, it's not that much. To again let the market prove to me that it is indeed like we are making new all-time highs, and we're probably going fair amount higher if that was to happen. But just looking at kind of this range that got developed, it's like if you're trading this price action, you're back up near the highs again. You hit a really significant level. It just doesn't. It makes sense to be cautious around here, which is what I was calling for. Yeah. So anyway, that's Bitcoin. I don't have much else to say. We'll kind of see how this goes. I don't know. It's good. It's been a really nice. It's been a nice run up for sure, and maybe we'll get a pretty good opportunity sometime soon to get some pullback to some support, and maybe reload there, something like that. So you guys have any questions about it before I move on? I know like quite a few of you have been in the alt positions that we've been talking about, so I really want to spend a little bit of time talking about those and kind of going through alts because I think those have had like really significant moves. And we've even had a bit of pullback on some of those since my warning, so I wanted to kind of talk you guys through that. But you guys have any questions on Bitcoin?
Pretty clear for me.
It's pretty clear, right? Like it's pretty standard, like how we would look to trade this. But yeah, like again, calling out the value area high, it's man, I like it when it works. Obviously, I mean, man, I like for this to just keep going up and up and up forever, like everybody would. But you call out like when you think things are coming to dangerous spots, right? It's like you gotta step in and make sure. Like I don't know about you guys, but the reason why I trade and the reason why I do what I do is because I'm doing it I'm doing it to make money, right? So when the money is in front of you and you've had a really nice move and you're in resistance, it's like a lot of people look at it and they say, man, like, you know, my P&L is up so much. Oh my God, like so bullish. I'm so excited. Great times. And they don't take anything off because they're like, you know, like I'm gonna wake up, we're probably gonna be 120K, something like that. And then, you know, again, like not that I'm like celebrating this little down move, because let's be real, like this isn't like a significant move. It's just a reminder though, like when you get up to something significant, um, take a little off. Doesn't hurt, right? Locks them in. That way, if it does dump pretty hard, you're locked it in at a pretty good level, and you can always get back in, right? Like you can always put that back to work. Even, you know, if you're into it, compound your position, bigger position now. I don't know. Anyway, let's look at some alts. Some of the stuff that we were looking at. So like whiff is one that, wow, right? So this was like the edge to edge trade that we were talking about, and we've been like, this is what I'm talking about. It's moves like this that I get excited about. I mean, look, it's down. Off of today's high, it's down 15%, but it's still up almost 23% on the day, right? So like you get moves like this, again, this is like why I'm like, okay guys, you're in these trades, you know, off of like your Kijun retest, you're up 155%. Even if you got in anywhere around here, you're still up, you know, it's still a double. Like, you know,
I actually got in at around 0.74.
about around 74.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so that is, you're up nice, right? So
Yep.
um
I actually cashed in at let's see what was the 121.
yeah, so like yeah, I mean that's like a great, so 74 cents to $1.21. Like that's a great trade.
I actually took monthly pivot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like again, I would say the full edge to edge setup. You hit this flat part of the Kumo, but you still have this week, this trading week basically. You know, like for a full move to the other side of the cloud. I really do like this flat Kumo quite a bit. You know, technically, like it's not until next week that like you would be overly concerned about this level, but it does illustrate, like flat Kumos do illustrate really good levels for me overall, even if they're looking ahead in the future a bit. Again, not a bad, it's just not a bad idea when you have taken the easy part of the move. And to me, this is the easy part of the move. When you're talking about edge to edge trades specifically, like this is the bulk of the move, right? Can this continue higher? Of course it can. Does it still look good? Yeah, it still does look good. But at some point too, like when you have trades that are moving this quickly, what can happen that you all know can happen? What goes up quick can come down just as fast, right? So
man, and we know that
you basically, right, like, and you guys have been here for years at this point. You guys, we've seen a lot of moves like this, right, that can come up and down really fast, or the same thing, go down quick, come up quick. Now like this is a pretty good, again, like I like this shape. I like this, you know, I already went over this last, you know, for a while now. We've had a really significant pullback. Nice base that got formed here. Now we're trying for some upside. Does that mean we're going back to $5? No, it doesn't mean that we're going back to $5 or we're making new all-time high. What I like is some kind of a mean reversion on higher time frames, right? I'm liking, so like what we can try to find, let's see, maybe like a 3-day, or yeah, like, so like I could see, it's actually pretty good, I would say. Kind of like, I would say 3-day is probably what I would class as a high time frame level for width, right? Because it's a newer asset. Like it's you know, it's something that hasn't been around for very long. You know, it's not like a 2020 altcoin. It's not a 2017 altcoin. It's not something, you know, again. So like 3 day, I would say is pretty fair. And, you know, kind of look at where Kijun is lining up. You can see that where, you know, like this was, I mean, even this. So like you got a nice move above your Tenkin, even got your back test, and now you're in the daily cloud, right? But on the 3 day, you're really looking at like $2, something like that. Like this is showing you that there actually is quite a bit more upside potential on WIF, which I would agree with. Um, you know, especially like if Bitcoin can remain, you know, relatively strong, even if it consolidates for a week, or you know, just like I went over, if it consolidates for a little while, not the end of the world. I do think that you want to see Ethereum continue to be strong though, and you want to see ETH, you know, ETH BTC for example, have a bit more, you know, a bit, you know, even more catch up than it has, which we could probably look at that in a minute. Um, but yeah, as far as WIF goes, like it's not really relevant to look at like the higher level, the higher time frame mean reversion, which again, it was even, it's $2, right? It's basically back at this high. So like I would class this as a key level, something to watch out for. $1.99, you know, it's kind of like the $2 whole, you know, whole number type of thing. Um, I would say like, and part of the reason why I'm putting this here too is that if we do start to break above cloud, you know, cloud starts to flip bullish. That's very good. You can see Chikuspan just entered cloud, right? So like Chikuspan's got a ways to go. Like this is time. This is gonna take, like this is probably gonna take. I would say the longer this takes, the better, if that makes sense. Like you don't really want. I don't really want to. I mean, okay, let me phrase this better. I'm all for quick moves. When I see moves happen in a very short amount of time, I like that, especially when I'm long, right? But when I see moves like this, I'm quicker on the trigger to take profits. If I see nice constructive price action, and one thing Ichimoku does a beautiful job is it gives you the time component as well to watch, right? If I want to see ranges develop, I want to see time spent and you know supports being created on lower time frames to give me conviction that this trend that we're seeing, and right now this is like a trend reversal, right? We haven't been in cloud since above $3, not since last year. We have not been in cloud since then. So to get back above cloud would be a really nice change of behavior. It would be a good sign, right? We still got some time. I want to see this spend some more time above $1, something like that. Really build up some support, and that would give me more. I'd be more excited about this to like really test some of these higher targets, right? When you see a move, 150% move happen in a week, if you're long, you're never going to complain about that. But what I'd say is I would be very careful thinking that this is just going to continue. You know what I'm saying? And we've seen it so many times, you know, in history. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. I love this move. What I want to see is I want to see some time. If it gets above cloud next week, zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see, you scroll on, I'm like trying to point my finger like you guys can see that. But if you look at the bottom of the chart, you see the dates. So really, kind of like back above today's high, I'd want to see that level closed at next week, essentially. I don't mind some time kind of like being spent, even like chopping around a bit, and then a close, something like that, right? Getting outside of cloud, forming a range here over the next week. Like I'm giving like what I would say is pretty bullish, be a very bullish scenario. If you see something like that, spend some time, you know, building support here, and then getting outside of cloud, letting this part of your cloud continue to catch up, give you, you know, a bullish Kumo twist at some point. This is still going to take a bit of time to do. Let your TK lines catch up with current price, that type of stuff. That's all really bullish stuff, in order for like trend continuation, right? If you just see another green candle, you know, hit $1.60 or something like that tomorrow, or the next day. So again, you can kind of see we had a nice 3 days of up. We had 1 day of, kind of like a bit of a break consolidation, and then a very big expansive move up after that. I would say that if we see another day like that within the next couple of days, it would make me a lot more cautious that we're going to have a really significant pullback. And that doesn't mean that WIF can't move up over time, right? It would just make me concerned that sometime in the near future, which maybe it could literally be right now, um, but sometime in the near future, again, if we were to see even another leg to the upside, like within the next day or two, I would just be concerned at that point that we're going to have a significant pullback, which again probably could be another great opportunity. But that's a very quick move for a short amount of time for something like that, I would say. So is there any questions on WIF? Good job. I know you guys traded this and you guys like did great. Like good job. I'm very happy with WIF for sure. And but yeah, that's kind of like if this is going to remain bullish, right? Or I would say get even more bullish. That's probably the proper way to say it. That's what I would want to see over the next week or so. I want to see some support get built up. I want to see it spend some time around here. And at least, for range traders, give us a range to trade locally. And that type of thing. I just think like we've had a very, very quick move up. And I mean off the low, again, in a relatively like this is, 334% off the low. But like this kind of price action, constructive, I would say. Like you get, up, nice pullback, nice move to the upside, consolidation, pull back into support, and then you get a really nice move up. I like price action that looks like this for high, basically moves that kind of end like this. So we'll see. Still like WIF. Just want to see some support. I want to see this spend some time above here before I get overly excited about it. What's some we can look at ETH BTC actually. So this is interesting. I actually haven't looked at it on cloud. Make sure, yeah, I'm on the right one. This is okay. Hasn't been inside a cloud since last year. I don't have too much to say about this. I mean, the edge to edge is technically there. I wouldn't be surprised on a bit of a pullback though. Maybe to like retest, kind of like WIF did. Like it had a nice pullback into support before a move higher. But this is a very strong impulsive move. We're spending some time consolidating around here. I think this is nothing wrong with this. And I'm kind of like looking at this as more of like a visual representation of the market in general. I would say like the alt market, right? Altcoins. You really want to see, to me at least, I want to see Ethereum remain strong, and I want to see it at least keeping up to outperforming Bitcoin if we're indeed going to have like an alt season, right? Like quote unquote alt season next few months, alts rip and everybody's happy, and you know how it goes. That's really like kind of like the environment that I'd want to see. Incredible move on Ethereum though. Very, very good move. It was a piece of garbage for such a long time though. So um a nice snapback. We'll see if it holds. And I think you really do want to see at least this chart, ETH BTC, stay in cloud, something like that, to give alts hope for continuation as a whole. So I would keep an eye on this. More to come probably in like a next video. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do think it's important to call out. What's some other ones that we were looking at? Dot. Let's take a look at Dot. Ah, you guys remember this? So, wow, this played out really well, I would say. So again, range, I kind of like compared this to Link, like when Link was at its low, reclaimed the range low, and guess what? You had your edge to edge even confirmed, so you have your deviation acceptance back into range first of all. Even gave you a pretty clean back test of your range low before this nice move. Where are you finding resistance? Your range high. Oh, imagine that. Imagine that. So anyway, this I think these range levels are really good, and let's see if we can kind of like look at some regions here. Okay, so like you're back testing your value area high right now. Not the worst thing. Again, kind of like a pullback off of these prior highs. Your range, what I would say is around your range high, right? Like this is a really, it's not, again, it's pretty normal to see this. Um, so, okay. So an interesting level. If you do lose kind of like today's low, your tenkin is pretty close to your point of control of this range. So maybe, that I could see that being kind of like, you get a pullback into that, maybe another nice move. But overall, again, this is kind of like combining Ichimoku with range trading, right? And I do like to do that in times like this because again, this range to me is very definitive. It's the levels are working out really nicely. But Ichimoku is signal. It's trying to signal like a trend change, right? So again, it's been under cloud for quite a while. Trends obviously bearish to the downside. Now it's like trying to turn the corner, right? So what happens? You get a range typically develops, and then you're trying to break out from that, right? So it's like very easy to kind of view that together. Nice overlay there. And then yeah, so like currently again trying to hold your value area high of the range of support. That's not after like getting rejected from your range high, you probably even had some kind of a swing failure pattern. I'm kind of curious, was there some easy swing failure pattern that you could have traded here? Yeah, I guess it would have been this, right? Yep. Literally that. You see that? So this purple line right here, you had a nice, let me move this little toolbar, you had a nice swing failure pattern here and then significant move down. But yeah, like this looks fine. Again, very much range behavior. I'd want to see it get back above that high at least, and then you'd be looking for 566, 565, 566, something like that as kind of like your next like reasonable target. But again, like even if it pulls back, chops around here, not the worst thing. Maybe that's okay. You get a pullback maybe down to like 472, something like that. Your point of control, your tenkin is basically sitting there. It's not a bad area to start looking. Again, like if you're trading dot, if you did take some profit at the range high, that's just, again, that's like a nice area to look to, maybe even add that back in if you're really bullish on dot, something like that. Okay. Let me mess this chart up even more because I do think just to illustrate, kind of want to get just an eyeball level. I want to get an eyeball level of your mid-range. So your EQ is sitting at 454 roughly. This is the midpoint of the range. So, again, if we see any bit of weakness here, this is like one of those times that I like to draw my little green box of prosperity. And it would probably be, as far as a pullback region to look for, again, this is probably like more like, I mean, you could take a potentially nice swing trade from here if you're. It kind of depends, I guess, like your trading style and like how you've traded this to begin with. I would say like off of this green zone, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you at least got a pretty nice bounce. So I don't know if this is something where I would like take a big swing. Your swing technically would have probably been, if you were trading the range, especially like your big swing would have come from a lower level, like on this range reclaim, right? But like a chance to kind of get in the game here to at least look for probably like I wouldn't be shocked for another rotation to range high, something like that, off this green zone. I think you got nice confluence. Bottom of it's your range EQ, which is the midpoint of the range. You have your range point of control, you have your daily 10 like there's some pretty good support around here, I would say, to kind of like look for a bit more of a pullback. But you need to lose basically today's low and to look for that, and then could see like maybe something like this. And then, you know, for me, if I took this trade, target one would likely be, I would be looking for range high. I mean, if you're like scalping, I don't even know what that would be. 5% moved. I mean, if you're scalping, 5% is not bad, right? That's a good day. That's like a good, it's not bad. It's, to me, that's, if you find a nice setup on low time frames, I mean, 5% is 5%, right? I'd be happy with that. But really, like off of a trade setup like this, I would be looking for, you know, a move back to range high. That'd probably be take profit one. Take profit two would be top of cloud. So that's my two take profits. I'd probably still leave a bit on for a swing in case it does break through cloud. Then, you know, you're looking for higher. But yeah, so like, you know, I would say the first, you know, the first, I would say trade opportunity for me that I would possibly be interested would be dot. On dot would be something like this. But so far, again, like I think this is traded really well, and the levels are being respected really nicely. Kind of getting reactions where you'd want to see them. Those are good assets to trade, right? Like, does anybody have any questions about dot? No questions. And yeah, it's kind of like when you get inside a cloud, it's not abnormal to get a lot of chop, right? You're kind of, it's not abnormal to see. This takes some time, and honestly, I think it would be even better. You have a really nice impulsive move. Obviously, came back up to your range high. It's a natural place for a pullback. Some consolidation here is not a bad thing. It's healthy. It's very healthy. Let's see if there's anything else we want to cover. Is there anything you guys want to look at? Or we can keep this update a little shorter. We're at 42 minutes. I am probably gonna, I do want to do like a public live stream, I think, later in the week. We can go over a bunch of random alts, stuff like that would be fun. I'm kind of curious about Sol. 180. So again, kind of, you know, Sol's still working its way back up to 195. So you have some resistance around here. So this is the daily that obviously got tapped. Seeing a bit of a pullback from that. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good level.
How about 88?
88? Yeah, we can look at that. Sure. And I would say Sol, like maybe a decent pullback would be kind of back to this low. Maybe like, you know, we can kind of go on a lower, but you see here before I switched that this is where your daily Tenkin is at now, right? You kind of like, I just want to see kind of how this low looks. That's still pretty good structurally. I was kind of hoping it would be, you know, something like this, kind of. It looks okay. So that's that daily low. So trending. Let's say like a low time frame level would be this level. You're kind of chopping around, right? Making slightly higher highs here. We just kind of like took out this low a bit and this low. So these two lows. I think like an SFP of 167. It could be a nice one. So something like this. And I'd say this is kind of like more for a scalp, but like if you have the SFP, right? Get your long stop loss below the low and then look to take it back up to, you know, probably the top side of this range, something like that. That could be a nice scalp with potential to you know, for continuation up to 195. I think that's actually a pretty good trade setup there. I just would be a little this is like a purely SFP based trade though. So if you don't get one, there is no trade, right? But if you got an SFP, I would say of this low, could be interesting. And that's exactly how I would look to do that. That's basically the trade setup. look to take it back to probably 178, 180, something like that. Take profit 1, and then take profit 2, 195, and that'd probably be a pretty significant take profit. But I would still leave some on in case it just busted through the top of cloud, right? You know how Solana can get sometimes. So this is like one idea. The second idea is like a fuller pullback back down to 161. We kind of, whoops, that is not what I wanted to do. Look at this. Okay, long range. So this is where you had the start of this kind of move up. Anchored VWAP. Okay, hey, wow. Okay, wow. So literally kind of where this SFP is, okay, is where your anchored VWAP is of this current like move up and consolidation. Your anchored VWAP is coming in around here. Scott, how's that, huh? So I would say that adds a pretty nice layer to this thesis, this idea. That adds a pretty good layer. So yeah, I would say I like this idea even more than I did about a minute ago. But again, it doesn't change anything like how I would trade. You would basically hope, and again, it's kind of funny, like this lines up really well, but I would hope for basically a run of this low, which is like this range that's developing here. And like you're not even getting like really that great of a reaction off of like taking out these two lows, but I would say these two lows really aren't that significant, right? It's this low. Like if you're looking at this range, to me the significant low is probably back here, not necessarily these two. But yeah, I do. That's interesting. So if you're scalping, I think that's not a bad idea, but you'd want to see an SFP if it came into your anchored VWAP and then reclaimed 167, something like that. That would be very good to see. You have a nice low. But if it just kind of nukes right through it, there's no swing failure pattern here, then I would be looking at 161, which is basically like that the beginning of that daily candle, so on and so forth. I want to take. So okay, so like this is like even better. Okay. You have pretty good fib confluence literally here as well. Okay, so it's the 382, which if you're looking for this to remain bullish and have upside continuation, kind of like having a shallower pullback to your 382. I mean, you have your 382, you have your anchored VWAP, you have what could be a swing failure pattern. This is like really good scalping type stuff that I like to see. Very good potential here. Now, obviously, if it fails, if it doesn't give you a swing failure pattern, there's no trade. And then you would be looking for that deeper pullback, which guess what? Your 50% retracement is basically that 161 level. You like how that works? I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. I think these are two interesting looking trades. And like, could I make a case for the golden pocket? I'm sure I could if I did it a little deeper. I don't really want to at this point. Because again, like the two, and they're for two different reasons. Why I like these two trades, and I've kind of built what I would say is a pretty nice case for at least a scalp, you know, around here. But I would absolutely want to see a swing failure pattern into this support, and it kind of gives you an idea for how deep that SFP could go, right? But you'd want to see a pretty sharp reaction off of here. You see that, probably a nice opportunity. If it bounces off of kind of like 382 anchored VWAP, you get your reclaim, that type of thing. Like you're probably you're not risking very much to get some potential nice upside. So this is a region I'd watch out for. We good? Let's take a look at ADA. Let's take a look at ADA. See what we see. I know this one was kind of a little weird, right? Because this is one of like those Trump alts, and I didn't really have a very again, this to me is very choppy. It's not super helpful. This is one of those Trump alts that strategic reserve discussions, not really probably doing anything with it, but sounds nice. And kind of look at like some higher time frame stuff, see if there's any clarity there. I mean, this is just kind of messy. I don't think it's like this isn't too bad, especially I would say if you can get back above, kind of like back, maybe like a closure back above your tenkin, then you'd be looking for a bit of upside. This is really strange. A lot of like this is very news driven. This last part for sure. Like that's, I mean, who would have guessed that Cardano? I mean, there was like the talk of like American made crypto, right? So it's like people were guessing like, oh, and Cardano was one of the ones that was thrown out there. Algo I think was another one. Like people were trying to guess like which ones would be included in that. Supposed strategic reserve announcement. Cardano got mentioned along with XRP and some other scams. I mean, some other, alts. So it's just this is. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't have a very clear picture on this, at all. I'm not afraid to admit it. I just really don't. I think this is much harder to trade. I think that if he, obviously if Trump says anything again about it, this will pump very like probably pretty hard. But I feel like Cardano is reliant on that, right? I think it's fine. Like Cardano's fine if the rest of the market remains strong. It's not going to die on its own, right? Very likely. In fact, you would think that it has almost a better case of pushing to like significant higher levels because it has the potential Trump announcement at any given time. He could say it, and then you probably get a really nice move up. So I mean, it has that going for it. Technical like TA wise, this is a bit messy. I mean, I am already looking. I could probably like chart this like a bit better if I took some time, but like what I see right now is just like this is not something that I would probably trade. Um, for those of you bot traders, speaking about bots, like this is not bad. This is not really bad. This is pretty good volatility. I don't really like, historically, I've never really loved Cardano, like when I was using bots a few years ago. But this is the type of price action again that I think is interesting, right? Um, but yeah, as far as like trading this, looking for long swings on this, again, I think it has like Cardano in its back pocket has like that Trump, discussion, Trump announcement at any given time. Bitcoin announcement, or I'm sorry, not announcement. The Bitcoin conference is in 2 weeks. And you have I think Eric Trump and Don Trump Jr. is going to be there speaking. Maybe they'd say, you never know. Like they could say something, have some announcement about something like this, and it could send it. I don't know. But yeah, I don't have a very clear read at all. So sorry, I'm not super helpful with that. I guess like if there was something specific that you wanted to know about it, I could probably answer that with more certainty. But if you're just asking like, what do you think about this chart? Honestly, don't think much of it. Uh, aside from, that I think that it has something that a lot of other charts don't do it, but it's like uncertain, right? So like for me, it's hard to trade like uncertainty, or like price in uncertainty, I guess. So hell of a move though, last cycle. And I mean, okay. So like if I was to get paint a bullish picture on this, which this doesn't look bad to be clear. Okay, I don't think it looks bad. Like for you chart pattern maxis out there, I would agree and say that this is a cup and handle. So if you're bullish on this, I do like this formation quite a bit, no matter how it came. I do think that this is a valid cup and handle. And then off of something like this, let's say that we get really bullish on Cardano. Like the market's bullish for the next few months. We have alt season, alts are ripping, and hell, maybe even Trump tweets something about it. Like you could see, a pretty big move back up. It wouldn't surprise me. It's not a perfect measurement, but like I do see like This is interesting. Especially with some help. I do think that you can get a much bigger pump. If it folds in with alt season, ETH is doing really well, alts are ripping, Cardano is probably a good candidate for like a pretty good move. That's what I'd say. All right, any other questions? Give me just a minute. No questions? Let me see if I see anything else before I sign off. Somebody in rows. Holy smokes. Okay, this is a weekly, but still, that is like, oh my goodness. Look at this. Oh, wow, okay. You got a very clean, very clean edge to edge. Wow, it's like extremely clean. So literally your edge to edge was here. This was your confirmation right there. You're up 33%, high of 41. That's a nice move. Wow. I can't trade rows. It's not on any exchanges that I can trade that I know of. But this was like, I would say this is like one of the best case edge to edge. Who was it? Somebody in here. Somebody posted that they were trading this. This was a kind of like a good case edge to edge trade because look like how low you didn't really have to risk much to like this. I like stuff like this. So very good. Whoever did that, good job. And you're probably very happy with this move. Yeah, again, like your literally your entry, your confirmation of your edge to edge was right here at 3.1 cents. You got your daily close inside a cloud, bullish TK cross, Chiku span above price. This is the three things that you need, and you'd be looking for 5.8 cents, something like that. A nice move up. Looks good. Even like you see like a lot of red today, which like don't let this fool you, okay? Like alts look pretty soft right now, but they had a damn good weekend, all right? So a bit of pullback, like it's okay to see this. It's okay. Had a hell of a like past few days, but it looks like stuff like Rose is having it's having kind of a nice move. Ooh, that's Sin, which I do trade this. Haven't traded this one in like a little bit, but it's up 16%. So some of the you're seeing a bit of you're still seeing some decent moves across the board. Is that rotations into things that I maybe don't want to see rotated into? I don't know if it's that. But overall this looks good, and yeah, like the edge to edge here. So like this would have been your trade setup. I know it's hindsight. And I didn't even look at this chart, but I'm speaking about I'd have to go and look and see in VIP who took this trade. But this would be your trade setup. So, and which I'm sure they are very well aware of taking it. Be something like that. Which is almost 7-1. Like this is really as good as it gets. For edge to edge. Very low risk. Now low risk in terms of like I'm looking literally risk to reward. The risk to reward is phenomenal. Obviously, you could still lose this trade, or you could have lost this trade, right? But I'm just saying, like you get almost a 7-1 risk reward. That's very good. For something like an edge to edge. So I would take those all day long. And you're up nice. You're up very nice. I would say kind of the same thing though. Is like look at where we've had a bit of a reaction here so far, and I would think that if you can get, for me, just kind of like how this looks, you do have a daily here, untapped daily. So I'm kind of giving you like your first zone, right? I would say it's like this. So this is one region to watch out for. I think like coming in up to kind of like this consolidation, this is a normal place to kind of slow down, that's going to have a little bit harder time. Again, I had some pretty good times spent around here. But this red, kind of like this red zone, untapped daily, I would be a little bit careful here. But if it can push up through this above 4.8 cents, then yes, I do think you could probably get a nice finish here. This looks good. Nice move so far. So credit to whoever that was, whoever you were. I'll give you some props after the stream, but that's a nice catch. Anything else? I'm just kind of scrolling through here trying to find stuff that I know that either you guys or I have been trading. Over most of it. All right. Well, I think I'm going to cut it there, but if there's anything else that you guys want to look at, let me know in VIP, and we'll cover that. I'm trying to think. Sorry, I'm like still scrolling to make sure I don't miss anything. But yeah, I am probably going to do a public stream this week. Kind of a busy week for me. But I think I am going to do a public stream this week. If you guys want to jump on that, or if I can figure out how to stream again. I have to like reconnect my YouTube channel to my stream software and all that stuff. It'll take me a minute. One last thing for you guys too. So VIP, I did open it. I did reopen it. I haven't said much. So like it is in my description of my video. But I think it would be cool to get some new faces in here. So I do enjoy these streams a lot. I like the participation. I like to be able to talk to you guys. And yeah. My only announcement for today. You guys need anything else before I go? Good moves though. One last thing. Make sure to take profits. Keep that money you make. All right. I'll catch you guys later. You have a good week. I'll see you in chat, but